There it is. Let's move.
Join my steeple of death! Rend your soul! These spirits are mine!
Yo, what's up people, it's your boy P, also known as Captain P67. We're here today for my Spirit Walker Twister build for the Uninitiated. Now, I've been asked by multiple people about my Twister build, and the reason I've kind of specifically made this one, it's no weapon swap required, plus it was the first time for me using Twisters. Now, as you can see in the footage, the build does millions and millions of damage. It's got very high rarity. So I am making over 150 divines a day just from blasting. I've made thousands of divines with the build as well. Currently I'm on 1291. But literally anytime I play this build, I do have multiple builds. This just brings me more and more money, just super easy. So I guess this could be used as a template or a build guide for all sort of Twister builds. So you can take information from this build, apply it to all of the builds. And this is obviously, like I said, a single weapon, so it's no weapon swap required. And it's my own version of it with a few unique things you'll probably see in the build and the build up to it. And again, you could just use this early on, and when you're starting off with the build itself, it's probably one of the best league starters I've ever played. So Twisters, as soon as you get them early on into the campaign, even if you are starting a new league, you just use Twisters throughout the whole thing, work your way up and just build your character. Now what I'll do is I'll go over the equipment, skills, passives, rotation, total stats. And then if I fill in any information, I'll fill it in along as we go. There is a lot to go through, so I'm going to make it as quick as I can. And the full Mobilytics link will be in the description below. So if you want to listen to it as a podcast, you can. However, if you're unable to listen to the YouTube side of things, you can just go on the Mobilytics and it breaks down all the skills, the gem skills. I'll give them the pros and cons of the build as well. And if you want me to do more in-depth breakdown, everything I can. But it does explain which kind of attributes to get or passives and buffs you want to get along the way. So everything is covered top to bottom, and I am live on Twitch every single day. So if there's anything you're not sure about in the build, you can always just join the live stream and I can guide you from there as well. Alright, so we're going to go over the equipment now. In regards to equipment, you can use any helmet. However, I kind of wanted to just keep a rare helmet with crit chance, because you want to kind of hit the crit cap. So the higher you can get to 100% crit, it's beneficial for you. So if you go on something like Oracle, it's easy to hit that crit, so you probably won't need a helmet with crit. But you can probably see what I've done, and I've kept it consistent throughout. So since I'm running the Spirit Walker, we've gone for evasion, energy shield, which I'll go with the total stats. We've gone for more life, gone for crit chance, which is definitely important. Gain deflection is a bonus, and obviously rarity. This build has very high rarity, so 150 rarity off base, and it just drops so much for you. So on top of the build being so good and doing millions of damage and great defense, brings in loads of money and currency for you. So those are the main stats you want to be looking at the helmet. Now in regards to the body armor, you do want to get as much evasion rating as you can. Energy shield can be additional as well, so if you could get evasion rating plus energy shield, great, better defensive layers. But I've also included like everything plus more life, so I've gone for higher evasion rating, maximum life, got a couple of resistance in there as well. Now in regards to the amulet, you do technically want to try and get a +4. However, I've kept some of these items on the lower end of things on purpose to show you don't always have to get min-maxed items to do the biggest damage and do all the content. So I'd say this is probably a medium min-maxed with this. So +4 to projectile skills is your main attribute you want to get. We've allocated critical exploit, which obviously higher crit chance if you don't already know, but basically that means higher crit, which I can go through you as well. But you want to allocate that, and I can go through the stat with you. So critical exploit will be around here somewhere. Probably be top of my head. Actually, I'll just type it in so it'll show up quicker. Critical exploit. There you go. So alone, this gives you increased critical hit chance. So if you're already with the twister with Oracle and you've already got the crit, you won't need this to anoint this. So you could go for like crit damage. So just use something else, which I'll go through with you in a second. But yeah, you can use that to increase your crit chance on any anointed amulet. And then again, we've gone for evasion, we've gone for life, rarity again, as you can see. Mana regen can help out quite a lot. And of course 54% increased evasion rating from equipped body armor. So the higher the evasion rating, you can scale that with that. Now in regards to rings, we have gone for like res, some physical, some lightning gives you more bonus damage, rarity again, dexterity again, the higher the dex the better overall, more fire res and mana regen. Now we've got mana regen in there and we've got mana region in there, so if you pair those together you don't really have any mana issues. And I've also included some extra stuff so you don't have any mana issues whatsoever. So even if you're dealing with like a lot of high expeditions or juiced ones, when you got monsters that are mana leeching or even just any maps of mana leeching, I've got ways around that for you as well, so that's included. Now if we go for the boots, pretty much the same thing. Evasion rating, I added runic ward. Originally I didn't have runic ward in the build, but I did find that even though we got high enough evasion, we still wanted like base defense, and even though we got decent amount of life, like 2k I believe, and energy shield, I wanted something else to give it that extra oomph. And so of all this, I've tried and tested everything on stream, every angle, every sort of situation, every run, and this is what I feel is the most ideal, perfect twister setup for all the content with offense, defense, and rarity. And I've included runic ward, so if you can include it will be beneficial for you. So we've got movement speed, which can obviously a lot better for movement, evasion rating, rarity, more resistance, and life regen, so again more survivability. And as far as the gloves go, any sort of physical or lightning damage, I've added critical damage bonus because we're at crit cap. We do a lot of more crit damage, which is multiplicative, so you can get extra projectile skills as well as crit damage. Those gloves might be a lot more, but then you might be losing the rarity. So what I've done is added the most beneficial in all factors. But if you want to go for more flat damage and you say you had higher rarity from a ring or something else, you could actually go for projectile skills in the gloves to do even more damage and crit damage if possible. But the main sort of attributes will be critical damage, which is multiplicative, dexterity to keep capped at higher, some more energy shield, and obviously rarity since I'm getting so many drops all the time. You can get obviously a 1 slot, 2 slot. We've just gone for a 1 slot for now. And in regards to the ring, this is definitely ideal to get, but you don't need it starting off with it. Same as what I've done. So what I did was from the start of the league, I built this build up organically. So I started with like really low base items, and then I just built it all live on stream, and I tested it all on stream, see what works, what didn't work. But I'll definitely 100% recommending you getting the Taming Prismatic ring for the extra stuff. And also I got a twice corrupted. So on the twice corrupted you can get crit damage, you can get skill speed and some extra bonuses. Now one thing that's cool about it is you do get all elemental resistance and it doubles up. So we got 32 for all, which is amazing. And then we got 20% increased damage for each elemental type, which we've got all elements on the build, and I got poison and bleed and some extras. so we got everything covered. But you can read what the ring does, but definitely recommended for any sort of twister build to that extra oomph, and it covers the ground effects as well, so it's a lot better in general. Now, in regards to the belt, I'll go into in a second. I again originally started off with base gear, so some stuff from the campaign I'd keep. So more armor, more life. Any resistances you might need to get covered, you can use that plus life regen. So I originally started that, and then luckily I got Mage Blood super early into the league. I made a guide on how to get it, and I also got another one drop like in last week again, so I made a guide for that again. So if you haven't already got Mage Blood, definitely recommend you just watch that video. I could probably link it in the description below as well, so you can easily farm it, and I've got 2 of them now, so it 100% works even after a so-called patch or 2. And you start with the base, but you can definitely get this, and then you can fill in what you need. So if you need more elemental resistance, you can get it. If you need more crit, you can go for the crit. If you obviously want more rarity, you can get the rarity, and obviously this has got armor, but you could go 2 evasion or plus evasion as well, so it's totally up to you. But I've got quite a lot of armor in the build as well, so on top of all the extras we got armor included. Now in regards to the spear itself, again I started off with like what I found in the campaign. I think I got a +1, then a +2, then I got a +3, and then I started progressing because my rarity was so high early into the league. I was making so much money early on, so I sold a lot of items, made so much more money, so I ended up buying a more expensive one, and then I flipped them. I bought some early, then sold them for like 20 to 50 to 100 divines, and then I finally found this one which I liked, and I can't recall exactly how much it is, maybe about 80 divines roughly when I got it, I think. And then it started off lower roll, then I qualityed it as well, and then got the stats higher. But ideally the perfect stats you want, unless you're rocking Oracle with a guaranteed crit, any other template for any other build, you want about 10 crit chance base, so you can sit at the top. Attack speed, don't go anything less than 1.79. The other ones are just too slow, and you definitely feel it. Even though there's some ones for sale that might think, oh, it's better stats, good stats, that attack speed alone, unless you're dual wielding, obviously you can kind of ignore that per se. But if you are just doing the single weapon one with no weapon swap, just try and get 1.79 minimum. But you can do dual swap and like kind of ignore that to a certain degree as well, as a little heads up. But again, I just wanted to make it my own variant and my own way of doing it, and I started off with single, and I just wanted to keep it just simple for the newer players. So again, this is the twister build for the uninitiated, and then you can kind of delve into the weapon swap if you want to. All the options are there as well. And then of course we got extras in there. So increased physical damage is amazing, which we convert. We got 50% increased elemental damage, so we've obviously got lightning, we've got fire, we got the cold, then we got the increased damage, and then the crit itself, you want minimum 4.28. So as long as you have 10 on the base, just remember that, and 4.2, that's amazing. Increased attack speed can be great, and of course +4 to projectile skills. +3 is a great way to start, or less if you're obviously building it up, but you want +4 in the final end game version of the build. Again, we can invest more money if you want to get a higher stat version or whatever, but like I said, I'm just happy with what I got, and I've already made several other builds. So I got a new Chronomancer build coming out, I got a new Smithy Katava build coming out as well, and I'm just going to keep juggling new builds every week instead of spending a bit too much time on the one, trying to sort of min-max it to a certain degree. Alright, so that's all the gear included. Flask wise, we've gone for the Oros, which has changed. So since we are using Runic Ward now, this is great because as soon as you use this, you get guard equal to the current Runic Ward. So if we go off the base, we got current Runic Ward at 203. So every time we use a flask, we basically regenerate Runic Ward, which gives us more defense, but we also gain guard for 10 seconds when the effect ends as well. So it's like double dipping in defense. And then of course the flask as well, we're using the Laviangas, and when I go through the passive tree, you'll understand why we're using it and what's so good about it. And in regards to Rite of Passage, we have got rarity 15 on here as well, which is phenomenal, and you can use any one you want. However, there is a specific reason I'm using the Serpent, because I've got poison in my build, and I felt that, not a weakness per se, but if you want to do more damage at closer enemies, like once you've done your twisters, if you can have anything that attacks anything up close, I found that the Serpent is perfect. So not only does it physically attack in front of you, I also have poison on my build anyway included, so it does increase poison damage. But you could use Rite of the Cat for obviously that evasion, which will probably be most top tier one if you want to get that. But again, depending on what stats you got, you could go for that, you could go for the bow for more defense. You can pick whatever you want basically. So just choose whichever one suits you and suits your playstyle, or if you don't have the currency, just use the one you currently got, and you can always upgrade it and get more, but just keep that for the rarity. And then of course, because I haven't got full chaos resistance, I went for the charm of chaos resistance in there, and then we added poison. I think dot damage is the only thing that really hits this build. We kind of dodge pretty much everything else. We tank a lot of big hits, and the only thing that gets us is dot damage. So you can put in whatever charm you want to kind of negate that overall. Alright, so we've gone over the equipment. We will quickly go over the skills. I'll go through it. Again, this is all on the mobilytics anyway, so if it is going too fast for you, you want a slower pace sort of breakdown and go for everything individually, just go on the mobilytics. It shows you step by step what I've gone through, all down to a T, and you can go at your own pace as well. But there's a lot of information, so I'm trying to make it as quick as I can for you and not wasting anyone's time. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the camera because there is probably some stuff blocking the screen. So if we remove the camera out the way, pow, you can see all the skills top to bottom. Now again, I'll go through these super quick, and then again you can go through them when you feel like it at your own pace on the mobilytics, but the YouTube video is there, so I'll make it relevant for each one. So first one is Vivid Stampede. So if you're not sure what each one does, I'll just go a quick abbreviation. So basically it's just called on the spirits of the stag, sending them leaping forward. Each stag releases damaging shockwave each time it lands. Any stags that travel the maximum possible distance also leave shock ground. So when you're doing like attacks, the stags coming out, and as you can see they leave effects and do after effects and whatever we added. So it's just another layer of offense, and it helps you do more in your build. Or just the synergy is just phenomenal. So what I've added is blind. So when I do hit them, I do blind the enemies. It stops them from critting us, which gives another layer of defense. I've added persistent ground, so when it does the lightning and any other procs it does the ground effects even longer. Static shock, sport skills which can hit enemies. Shocking enemies hits from sported skills triggers static shocks, causing that enemy to become a source of lightning damage, sending pulses towards nearby enemies. So that target becomes sort of like hit with the procs of the minions around it. And it's all to do with shock and charge and just having a bit of AoE as well. And then we've also added 100% chance to more to shock, since it says that in the main thing with the lightning. And then also we've got living lightning as well. So not only do we send them out, living lightning comes out of minions and bolts come out, chases more enemies down. If there's any enemies that are on low level HP, it will just finish those for you, saving you a lot of time in mapping as well. Also helps out with bosses, just getting those little touches in and finishes as well. Wild Protector, calls upon a bear spirit companion to maul your foes. The bear spirit leaps at enemies to maim them, leeches life with its slam, periodically roars to intimidate enemies. The bear spirit does not count towards your companion limit, which doesn't matter too much to us since we're using it just as a companion. Now what I've added is punch through. So it applies like knockback on target, so when it hits them, it also does a little bit more damage per se, like crowd control, and helps you out. So it knocks them back and just gives you a bit more space. And it kind of makes sort of enemies kind of focus them as well, allowing you to do twisters on them while they're doing that. Now I've also added some really cool tech which I added with one of my older builds a few leagues ago, which is Anamanu's Tithe, which they actually nerfed. It used to be 100%, I believe now it's 50. So basically granting a chance when the minion dies for you to gain Abyssal Modifier. So where you got Headhunter and you get like modifiers added on, this basically means if your bear does die, which you can at like higher levels a lot, you'll end up getting buffs for it, and then the bear comes back and your bear's back and you still get your buffs. So it just gives you unlimited buffs basically, 3 different variants, and they look really cool and they do more stuff for your build as well, and they enhance the gameplay, so it's pretty awesome. And then we've also got Ramiro's Recrital. So basically companions that take damage, minions created by sporty skills take a portion of hit damage you have otherwise taken. So not only do we have damage reduction modifiers, our bear will take some damage before we do, allowing us to recoup and obviously be ready, because it says here you recoup 200% of damage taken from sported minions of life this way as life. Minions from sported skills have 30% less maximum life. So to work around that, what we've gone for is Meat Shield. Minions from sported skills deal less damage, so he's not really there to do big damage. He's there for more like cause aggro, cause the attention, and obviously do damage reduction for us. But minions from sported skills takes 40% less damage, so that kind of negates that plus 10% extra on top. And then I've also gone for rapid attack, so he just seems a bit more aggressive with it, seems to attack more, causing the aggro and obviously doing more for you. Now in regards to the Primal Bounty, this is in your skill passive tree. I'll go over this when I go over your passive skills. What I've put in here is Oros Conviction, which is really cool. You can put this in Oil Barrage, or sorry, just Barrage, but I do prefer it in Primal Bounty overall personally, but you can put it in there. It all depends on how you want to use it, but I've definitely prefer it in there. Plus I've got my stuff in Barrage that I like as well, so it's totally up to you. but it's definitely recommended. So what it does is supported skills gain 100% of life and mana cost as extra runic ward cost. However, it doesn't really cost anything when you use it, so you're getting the buffs without the negatives, and it empowers the skills so you can do more. So I'll go over the full rotation later, but basically that's what you could somewhat call an empowered one with the roll. So you roll, you pop your barrage, and then you shoot at a lot of twisters. And the screen might look like it's lagging a little bit, and some changes was made, I believe, with everything getting reset, so we should be alright. Alright, so what I'll do is we'll go to the next one, we'll keep it moving. And then also, I said I'd include some extra tech for you. So what I found is, when you are low on mana, just some of the builds, there's nothing you can really do. So to kind of negate that, what I added was, which I normally added, is one skill to counter like mana monsters. Now this says 93,000 damage, so it does hit kind of hard, and it comes out really fast as well. And you can actually empower this, so as you can see I'm not using any mana whatsoever. So even when you have no mana, you're still really dangerous. And you can also do like a split version of it. So the same tech you use for your twisters, you can use the same tech just for that spear as well. So it shoots at multiple. It's really, really strong, and it does a lot of damage as well. So there you go, 119,000 with the buffs on. So what I've added is rapid attack, so it shoots so fast. And also this one's really cool. So when you freeze a target with supported skills, for each rage you have, you and your allies gain cold damage as 15 seconds buff. So since we can get both of those, we can use this to finish and get the buff included as well, which is pretty awesome. Done bleed damage, which is pretty good to like counter certain enemies. Since I told you I do all the elements plus poison and bleed, we'll do extra bleed with this. And then also this gives you like life leech as well, so you can either get life leech back, and whereas I mentioned mana sometimes with mana monster, you can hit a few 2 or 3 spears and get all your mana back quickly with this as well. So it's a really, really quick way of getting that mana back if you are low on mana or have a mana leech monster near you, which is pretty awesome. Alright, then when we gone for the whirling slash, now most builds would have a low whirling slash, like a low level, because as you can see the mana cost is quite high per se, but I like my build to be solid in all areas, not just like reliant on the twister themselves. So I've kept it at a high level on purpose. Plus, because I got so much mana regen and ways of getting mana back, I don't have any issues whatsoever when we're like blasting maps. So no matter what, I always have mana. There's not really an issue where I don't have mana. So I'll use as much mana and skills as I can. It's not the highest damage, but still hits, and it still moves pretty fast as well for no weapon swap and what we got. And again, you can change that to 1 if you are having mana issues, but what I've gone for in there is rapid attacks 3, efficiency 2, blazing critical. Now this is very important as well. With the flat numbers you can see here, that's great, but this is really, really good at bumping up your damage. So when I go through the rotation, I'll explain it, but just a quick version of this is attacks gain 15% damage as fire damage for 5 seconds when you critically hit an enemy. Because we're at our crit cap and we always crit, we basically attack with this one whirlwind slash, and we get 15% of damage as fire extra on top. So the damage just goes up so much higher in the numbers. And whereas I mentioned the rage and this one and stuff, so it mentions it, supported skills for each 2 rage you have, we stack rage with this as well. So we grant rage 5 on melee hits. So they'll synergize with that procs into that. You do extra cold damage, and then you proc this with this, you do extra fire damage. So when you put those together, the damage is insane. And then we've also got pinpoint critical, which basically means that we're guaranteed to hit 100% on crit. So if you're not sure, you could just check on here. This one might actually say a little bit less because of where we're at, but we do have 100% crit. Alright, yeah, so we got the modifiers in there. So where it says 64ish on here now, it will hit 100% because the other stuff, plus the blazing critical as well. So as long as you get about 64 and above, you're good. But if you are less than that, you probably will need to get your crit higher. That needs to be your main hand crit chance as well. Said I'll explain the rest of the ways we get it as well, but yeah, 64 is like the peak, the pinnacle of what you want to get at least, and then the rest can go through. And of course with the Ari core you can get max as well. Also another one that's really, really cool is we can freeze pinnacle bosses and any sort of content in the game as well with freezing mark. So when you mark a target, you make them more susceptible to being frozen. When the mark target is frozen, the mark activates, granting you a buff which gives you extra cold damage, which again scales the damage even higher. So those other 2 buffs on top, plus this, you can just stack it all, it goes insane. And then on top of that, when you consume the mark, you can also mark another target while you have the buff, and then you just get more damage. So hits against marked enemies cause 55% more freeze build up, meaning we can stun like monsters like Bodak and the pinnacle bosses and other bosses in general. So nothing safe from being frozen from us, so we can do it to every single enemy we come across. Now finally we got to the Twister. I've gone for a double corrupted, so I'd recommend that for the highest base damage, because you want to do as much as you can. And then we'll go over the jewels in there. Oh shit, did I miss this for freezing mark? Yeah, I think I did. So yeah, prolonged duration to make sure it lasts longer. Cooldown recovery so we can proc it twice in a row. Marker siphoning causes you to leech mana. So I mentioned I've got other layers of stuff in the build. So again, we're just covering our backs, but you can replace some of these with anything else you want. Make it more active if you wish, but these are the main ones for the build I got, and I've just covered every angle, so it just runs super smooth to every map and content. Supported mark skills trigger charge mark when they're activated. So this one says when they're activated, charge mark creates shocked ground at the target's location on top. So we're actually adding shocked ground at the target's location on top, and then we can use that for our twisters also. Does more damage, and then obviously one level which gives more flat damage overall as well. And then finally for twisters, I mentioned a double corrupted. So if you don't know how twister works, because I guess we could do this for a newer person. So you whip up a twister, or the flick of your spear, the twisters move forward erratically. It blinds enemies, which is very important, which I mentioned about the crits, which I'll go for you. And it hits the enemies multiple times. If the twister touches a whirlwind from your other skills, it consumes a whirlwind to create an additional twisters that deal more damage. Passing over elemental ground surfaces or consuming an elemental whirlwind will grant twisters extra damage of their element. So you can probably see something in correlation now. I've always got like stuff, whether it's shocked ground, we're causing shocked ground, we're doing extra stuff, we're causing extra procs, we're doing all elemental, it all synergizes with that. So that's the way it works. And then I've added projectile acceleration 3, deliberation in there as well, which gives you more damage, and your movement isn't sacrificed, and pinpoint critical to hit that higher amount of crit. And obviously Rakiata's Flow. Now if you don't have Rakiata's Flow, you can use Elemental Armament 2, I believe it is, and it does way more elemental flat damage to start off with. But then obviously when you start banging out the runs and you get more currency, definitely run Rakiata's Flow, which will scale with all content, and it'll just keep scaling limitedly as well, which is phenomenal. And then we've got Combat Frenzy. So while it's active, we grant you a Frenzy Charge when you freeze an enemy, or electrocute, or pin. Now as I mentioned, the freezing mark, that freezes enemies. This basically procs off that, so then we get a frenzy charge, and then we can get multiple as well. Now also with this, charge profusion, supported skills have 30% chance to grant an additional charge, and supported skills have 50% chance to grant an additional random charge. So we're just basically always generating different types of charges, and we've always got frenzy charge, that extra stuff as well. And in regards to defensive layers, we've gone for Ghost Dance. So while active, causes you Ghost Shrouds and gives you more defensive layers, gives you reservation as well. But it all explains what it does. So when you get hit, you basically get your energy shield back, and then when you pair that with Wind Dancer, it's just a massive defensive layer on top of all the defensive layers we've already got as well. Now we've gone for cooldown recovery, precision 1, because we added more accuracy, which is 10 spirit, and we still got 7 spirit left. But yeah, we've added precision 1 in there as well. Now second wind 3, we've got cooldown recovery rate for this. So when supported skill is used, goes on recovery, you recover 1% of maximum life per second of cooldown. So again, it's more tech we've added for more survivability in there as well. Now Wind Dancer pretty much synergizes with Ghost Dancer, which is pretty cool. So while you're active, you periodically grant stages of buff that gives you more evasion per stage, and we have very high evasion. So being hit with an enemy while you have this buff consumes all stages to damage and knock back enemies around you. So 3 maximum stages, so you gain a stage every 1.4 seconds, which gives you more evasion on top of your build. We've got magnified area, 45% increased area effect. We've got blind 2, which causes blind, which synergizes what we was talking about earlier. Then we got maim, so we can also sort of like maim any enemies around us, causing them to be slowed, and then we can do more damage to them. We got life leech to keep us alive, and then we got close combat. Another one I'd definitely recommend, which is really, really cool, is ice tipped arrows. So on top of all of that, we've got ice tipped arrows in as well. So when you activate your bow or spear, you empower your next repeatable bow or attack. We convert any sort of physical damage, whereas I mentioned physical on the spear, to cold damage, and it triggers ice fragments on hit. This skill's cooldown can be bypassed expending a frenzy charge. So we've got frenzy charges in there as well. So all you do is click it once, and you can see it's kind of like infused. You won't really see the fragments too much because we're not hitting anything. But if there was enemies on the screen, you'd see the enemies be hit by the sort of particles of the ice as well. Now, in regards to this, what we've gone for is cold attunement, so we get more cold damage. So again, you can see the synergy again. More damage because we're doing more cold, 25% more, which is a lot. We got more chance to freeze, which synergizes what I talked about, the freezing as well, the freezing mark where we freeze enemies, so we can make things freeze a lot. And we can freeze things multiple times as well. Second win for cooldown. We got Frozen Spite. Sported skills trigger ice fragments on killing frozen enemies. So not only do we have ice fragments, when we kill enemies we have more across the screen. So it ends up cluttering the whole screen in a good way, and it's just more damage and more stuff to do. And then we have cooldown, so we can proc it more than once. So it's like really cool to use for map clearing as well. And then we've gone for barrage. So on top of the ice tipped arrows, ready a volley of arrow spears, empowering your next repeatable bow or projectile spear attack to repeat multiple times. Consumes frenzy charges to add additional repeats. So because we're always generating frenzy charges, we consume them and we do empowered attacks. That basically means empowered attacks repeat 2 more times, further 1 more time per frenzy charge consumed. Repeat still 45% less damage, but because we've got so much coming out and we're doing extra hits, we're doing a lot of damage, and it does really scale really well. 420% of a powered skill's attack time is added to the skill's cooldown to a maximum of 30 seconds. And then we've gone for heightened charges. So benefits from consuming charges by spotted kills have 20% chance to be doubled, so you can double it up. Longer duration for the buff, cooldown recovery, and then we got perpetual charge. So spotted skills a 25% chance not to remove the skill charges, but still can consume them. So basically we can use it, but sometimes it doesn't count as using them, so you can repeat it and use it and use it and use it over and again. It's pretty awesome. And then spotted skills have 40% less cooldown recovery rate with second win 3. But so when the spotted skill is used and goes in recovery, you're recovering your maximum life again. So definitely beneficial for survivability and like higher certain maps. And you got so much going on with the build. It just synergizes really well. And then finally, the final skill is Sniper's Mark. So you mark a target. Your next critical hit the target receives activates the mark, consuming it to deal extra damage and grants you a frenzy charge. So again, we're getting frenzy charges anyway, but this means we're guaranteed one, and it's pretty simple. When someone spawns, you just hit him with the mark, you hit him with the freeze mark, and you're just ready to go. Then you can proc that. That's why the build is really cool. You can play this build in a simple way, or you can add in several layers of extra damage, and the synergy is just absolutely phenomenal. Alright, we'll quickly go over the passives. We are coming to quite a bit of time now as well, and then again I'll make it as short and sweet as I can, and I'll go over everything. So we are using the Spirit Walker Ascendancy. So what you really want to go over is Sacred Unity, which synergizes all these 3 nodes. So movement speed, obviously common sense. More movement speed, the more like, you know, space you can get. Vivid Stampede, which we've gone through, what it does and why it does it. Extra critical hit chance, amazing from here. Then we got Primal Bounty, so gain Primal Owl Feathers every 4 seconds, up to a maximum of 3, expending an Owl Feather when you dodge or trigger a Primal Bounty. So as you can see at the bottom of the screen, we've got the Owl Feathers 3 here, where I've highlighted the mouse. And then on top of that, when we roll, that's when it procs. And then all you do is you can just use your barrage, spin 3 times and shoot loads of twisters. But that's one of the reasons why we use that. And also on top of that, we move a bit forward, so we have more crit chance over here. And then we have Match as Gift. So dodging can expend 3 Owl Feathers, granting Primal Bounty, 100% more empowerment, effect per additional feather expended. So gain Owl Feathers 50% faster. So all again just synergize. So if you're rolling and you're doing a proc, you're going to get more buffs and debuffs come in. For the buffs for you and debuffs for them, and obviously you're just doing more damage. So everything you're doing just synergizes really well. And then the bottom one, companions deal more damage, which isn't too much of a thing because we don't really care for that, but a bit more damage for your bear is pretty cool. And obviously we get the bear, and we've explained why we get the bear and why we have it. And then once you add this, which is a free passive skills, it buffs all those other 3. And then obviously on the passive tree itself, what we've gone for, over here you could go for attack speed if you need more attack speed, but I just wanted to get maximum damage without sacrificing anything. So I've gone over to here, so attack damage and attack speed over here for Primal Instinct, and then through here. So we got Stalk and Leap. Again, once we synergize, since we're doing the Whirling Slash, we're buffing our projectiles. Once we're buffing our projectiles, we're buffing our Whirling Slash. These 2 synergize together really well. Now, what I would recommend is when you're first leveling, probably the best kind of route would probably be up here first, just to get around these nodes. But I would stop and I wouldn't go to these because these are all crit nodes later. So when you like early game 70 upwards, just go for these nodes on here because you got defensive and offensive layers, which I'll go into. But and then just go down this route, and then when you're going for the final touches of the build, then finally go for all these. But so I don't make it too confusing, we'll just go through here first. So whereas I mentioned the Twister itself blinds enemies, increased damage hits against blinded enemies. Twister blinds enemies, so we get 15% increased damage, which is 15, 30 plus this. So that's what, 15, 30, 30 plus another 25 is what, 55 increased damage. So a lot of extra damage in those nodes. And then I've also added in attack speed and attack speed. And I've also added this, which is really cool. So since we're using Lavianga's flask, 25% increased damage during any flask effect. Since Lavianga's is always being used no matter what, we're always consistently getting 25% increased damage buff no matter what. And also the increased attack speed with that. And because we're using the Oros flask as well with the extra duration, even if you didn't have Lavianga's, it would still be working regardless because you're proccing it. So this is just absolutely phenomenal. Then we've gone over here for more attack speed. Because we're not weapon swapping, we kept it kind of simple for now. And then down here, just more dex if you need it. Skill speed, mana regen, extra attack speed, more like attribute stats, evasion, maximum energy shield, and then I got movement speed, dexterity, and intelligence. And then if you work your way up here, this is when you can start getting the crit nodes, crit damage, and then you can start getting the extra bonuses. In the Heart of the World, where I mentioned I do poison and bleed, this is how I got it. I just got lucky in the league. I just found a 5-slot one, and it just ends up being really phenomenal. Not only do we do big damage to hit, but because we do like poison and bleed as well, pretty much guaranteed on each like Twister attack, we kind of like any sort of like stragglers. I get so many divines and rare drops from across the map because once the big damage hits and then the poison and bleed kicks in as well, they instantly melt and die, and it bypasses certain things with armor since it does extra procs and ailments. So I've got all the elemental damage in the game, plus I've got poison and bleed. So if you can get one with poison and bleed, great, but if not, you're mainly looking for skill speed, crit chance to top that crit, and then increased evasion rating from body, armor if you can. Those are the main three, but any of the bonuses phenomenal. And then of course just applying so much crit as you can and crit damage once you hit that crit cap, and you'll be doing so much more damage. And even if you get one crit damage node, it's massive because you're shooting like 15 to 20 twisters. So it's not a case of you just doing one attack extra 15, you're doing about 15% increase, like times that by 15. It's a lot of damage, which is that's one of the cool things about the twisters in general. Then we go down here for attack rating and accuracy, so you can go over there, plus a projectile speed. In here I mentioned the extra crits, and then we've added extra crit damage. And then you go down here for increased elemental, so more flat elemental. But what's cool about this node, 5% of physical damage from hits taken from damage as enemies of a random element, so causing more survivability since we got all our resistances capped. So we reduce any more physical damage, so we have more survivability. Then if you go down through here, this is really important, the Wildcat. So gain deflection rating equal to 12% of evasion rating, 40% increased evasion rating while moving. So you want to constantly keep moving. A little tidbit with this build in general, just don't stand still. I've noticed the only times I've really had deaths is when I've just stood still or stood like toe to toe and then kind of gone for a dodge roll. But if I'm just constantly using Whirling Slash and I got unlimited mana, this kicks in and we don't really get hit. So I always recommend moving. Just don't stand still with the build at all. Just keep moving. You'll have way more survivability. And then we've gone for acceleration, so skill speed, all that good stuff. And this is a really cool one, Dance with Death. So since we're using one-handed, 25% more skill speed while offhand is empty. Our offhand is empty because we're using one like weapon, and have a one-handed martial arts weapon, which is a spear equipped in your main hand, which is what we have. So this is why we have so much extra skill speed. However, if you are weapon swapping, you obviously can still click on this because you want to select your your unmain weapon that has the quickest attack speed in the Twister, the Whirlwind Slash, and then when you do natural damage, then you want to have this. But since I'm using it one-handed, Dance with Death is amazing. And then we've gone down here for more damage, more crit damage. 40% is a lot. So this is really cool to go down here. Then you got loads more damage modifiers and extra projectile damage within range. And then we do more damage in certain range types as well. Increase accuracy also. And then up here. And then damage and attack speed. And then finally, just work your way up here. Now, what I've said I've done really cool with extra the build, I think is pretty awesome. We've got all these nodes, obviously, with crit damage and stuff like that. We don't really need this crit for now, but if it was to go to like 98 or 100, I'd probably choose crit damage because it says for attack, so I'm always looking for flat crit damage. So I'd actually just go for probably this one down here, crit damage bonus, rather than it just says for attacks themselves. So from here, what's important, go over to enhanced reflexes. Now there might be some extra nodes in there for the people that don't know how it works, and I'll explain that in a second. And bestial skin is absolutely phenomenal. Since we have so much evasion rating on our build, on our armor, we've gone for this, which helps out a lot. So if you don't already know how time lost jewels work, once you put them in, if you get a very large radius, as you can see this circle, everything in this circle gets extra bonuses of what it says. So I'll get extra critical damage 10%, crit damage bonus, which is huge. I'll get 2% increased global armor and evasion. I have a lot of armor. I have evasion. I have energy shield. So I tried it without and went for more offense, which is great. But I wanted like again, I don't want like a snowflake sort of build that's glass cannon. I wanted everything covered, so it's just a great build all around. And I covered every angle with this. So notable passives give you increased attack speed, 10% crit damage bonus is a lot. So all the big nodes I've hit, we've got way more extra crit damage. And then yeah, when I mentioned like days and stuff like that, with the days we got this where I was talking about the crit chance. So since we daze and we have extra days on the build, when we daze with the twisters, whereas I showed you the flat crit from earlier, because we're always dazing anyway, we get 12% extra from here, and then on top of that we get 25% extra as well. So what's that, 37? So the 60 whatever I showed you plus this extra 37 on top, we're pretty much guaranteed to crit every time as well. And then on top of that we got extra damage against dazed enemies, and then I've included this as well, so increased attack speed, crit damage bonus. So because of this and the extra procs we got, we're always critting and we do that big damage. And then we got enhanced reflexes, so we got all the bonuses. So 20% increased evasion plus the other good stuff as well, included with the time lost as well. And then finally with this one, I was juggling these between recoup and life regen, but recoup doesn't always save you from dot damage. So what I did was I added life regen in there plus the extra, so we get 3% increased life, attack speed and all the extra bonuses. And I find that with this it's way more better. So if you can aim for like base of 2k HP, I think that's better than anything. So even if you get hit with big damage, we have so many defensive layers, we don't really get one shot. Can happen at some points, or we can get hit with a massive amount of dot damage at really super juice 6-man maps or like multiple maps. But most time all we do is pop a flask, just relax for a couple of seconds, and we have consecrated ground with the mage blood as well. And then we kind of, because we have so much recovery, we insta heal so quick, so we're always back on our feet. So no matter what, you're always fighting, you're always moving, you're always doing damage. Alright, so that goes with the equipment, the skills, the passives. I'll quickly go over the rotation super quick. We'll go over the total stats and we'll start bringing up the build to a wrap up, because it has been quite a lengthy one. I said there is a lot to go through, and because I'm explaining this from a newest person point of view, I didn't want to skip anything and miss anything out, and kind of like miss-sell the information as well. So yeah, as regards to rotation, like I said, it's just super simple. You can either play just twisters, you could even just shoot one twister, just press twister itself if you want to start off, if you're not too confident how the build works. Walk around, just proc twister, and that's it. Then obviously when you feel a bit more comfortable, you can do whirlwind slashes, shoot a few more twisters. But the ideal way for maximum damage and how I blast the map so quick, and I'll include that at the start of the footage of the video, I've included all the Cully Mac and the boss rushes. I've included a super juiced map run as well. So all I do is I will click the frozen tipped arrows, so X on the controller. If a boss spawns, I hit him with a marked target, I hit him with the freeze. I literally roll, I use barrage, 3 slashes, and then that's it. Everything's dead or wiped out. If for any reason the boss does survive, you just do the same thing. You just roll again. You can use another tipped arrows, 3 whirlwind slashes, and then just proc your barrage, and then just shoot your twisters, and that's it. I don't think there's been any boss that's lasted over 2 or 3 rotations in any content at all, and mapping, nothing really survives over that. But again, what I said, what I like about the build is you can play how you want to play. You could use a couple of normal spears, you can whirlwind slash, you can roll, you can move out the way, you can proc extra stuff to freeze stuff. Just do whatever works for you, and the more you practice on the build, the better it gets. But that is basically how you use a build, and it's super easy to play, but it can be more mechanical if you want it to be, and I just think it's really awesome. Alright, so finally we'll go over the final stats. So you don't need to compare these to anyone else's. Just make sure you're comfortable with what you got. And again, if you're using different ascendancies, you're probably gonna have different stats anyway. But I found this is like the perfect setup for me, and it works. And I've already making other builds, and I've already got a few thousand divine, so I'm super chilling with this. But I got 2,000 base life, 384 energy shield, 611 mana, 100 spirit, evasion 70, 39 armor. All the resistances capped bar chaos, which I mentioned the charm. We got even more, and then we got some of the other stats here as well. So if you do want to go into these, you can a bit more. So armor 2,280, estimated physical damage reduction 39%, armor applying to elemental damage 342, estimated elemental damage reduction against hits 2%, and then we got a very high evasion rating. I had 80 before, but I believe it's capped at 75. So as long as you can get for like 70 and above, I think you're good overall. But anything less, try and get it to 70 if possible, minimum. So evasion rating 24,241, 70%. Item evasion 3876. Estimated chance to evade is 70%. And then deflection rating 19,392. Estimated chance to deflect is 78%. And damage prevented by deflection is 40%. And then you can see we're well over capped our resistances. And then the chaos I've already gone through. And then we got the runic ward as well. And then that's the other bonuses. And again, if you're not sure about rarity, go onto your main skill if you're looking for rarity, because a lot of people have asked this. I've had so many new viewers join the streams recently, and hence why I'm making like a build for like a newer sort of type of breakdown for players and all the guys I've been covering. If you look on the bottom, on kill effects, slain monster item drop rarity modifier 135%, but that's not including the 15% we get from the charm. So it is 150, and that's why we get so many drops and so much loot every map. Alright, so that's it. I'll bring this camera back real quick and we'll just wrap things up. But yeah, I believe that covers everything top to bottom. If I have missed anything, just post in the comments below. And if you have any questions, I'm live on Twitch every single day, so I don't have any days off. But yeah, folks, that is my Spirit Walker Twister build for the Uninitiated. So it's a perfect template for you to use, whether you're like a veteran or like a newer player. And it will cover everything you need and have that covered for you. So links will be in the description below, and I am juggling multiple builds, so just tune on the streams, I'll cover you for that. But apart from that, wherever you are, have a good morning, have a good night, have a good evening. I will catch you on the next one. Take it easy and peace out.